When the sun fades, whispers rise, my love, in the shadows where the truth can breathe. Every moment that we cherished most, now they dance with the evening breeze. I find solace in the sounds of night. Oh, the journey takes truth to heal. Through the dark we'll find control. In the night we'll learn to roam. A new wind will guide us home.
I'm debating whether or not to kill my wife. I'm debating this as the doctor tells me her chances to live are slim. I'm staring at her through the window to her room. Her eyes are closed. She's not moving. My dear wife is filled with various tubes and hooked up to different machines that are working tirelessly just to keep her alive. They are doing the opposite of what I'm debating, whether or not to end it. The reason I'm being asked this question, the most morbid question imaginable, is because my wife is an organ donor. She's an organ donor because, well, of course she is. That's her nature, to put other people first. It is probably her defining characteristic. She is the most selfless person I've ever and will ever meet. And now I must decide if she should continue to be alive. I'm handed a pamphlet for such decisions. It lists the viability of organs after being taken from a dead body. I try to read this as tears begin to drip out of my eyes. They are not rolling down my cheeks. They are flowing out like a shower faucet, covering this pamphlet in devastation. I continue to read it because I know deep down this is what my wife would want. She would want her organs to be used to save someone else's life. The pamphlet specifies as follows how long each of these organs can last. Heart, 4 to 6 hours. Lungs, 4 to 6 hours. Pancreas, 12 to 18 hours. Liver, 12 to 24 hours. Kidneys, 24 to 36 hours. Corneas, 24 to 48 hours. Bones and tissue, several days. I am trying to will the spirit of my wife and convince myself that this is the correct decision. In her death, she will be able to save lives, multiple lives. Multiple families will see her as the hero that she is. I begin to ask questions I have asked already. I am receiving the same answers. Her odds to live are slim. She may awake into a vegetative state which could never change. Ambiguity has never been so cruel. There are no true answers, only questions, starting with one. Should I let my wife die? The doctor asks if I would like a moment alone with her. Perhaps that will help me in this moment. I say it might, so he leaves me with her, alone. The only sounds are beeps, beacons of light with each beep. I stare at the machines first as my body quivers with unfettered dread. My legs are shaking so hard that I start getting cramps. Cramps I haven't felt since soccer practice in high school. The one in my thigh is severe. I can barely stand up, but I tell myself that I need to keep moving. Once I sit and look at her, this will all become real. As I pace around this room, I am still in a movie. I'm watching someone else's life. A surge of rage slides through me as I think about how this happened. Her car was hit by another car, and that car is nowhere to be found. He's out there, somewhere. The person who killed my wife is still alive. Time to sit down. I pull my chair closer towards her and I take a long, deep breath with my eyes closed. I reach my hand towards her own and I grab it, softly. As my mouth opens, I lose all control. My tears are so heavy, my jaw feels like it might dislodge. My chest is beating so fast I can't even tell if my organs are still intact. I'm dissolving into a puddle. My face is buried into the side of her unconscious leg and I am wailing, like some sort of prehistoric reptile. I'm squeezing the handlebar on her bed so tightly that it might disintegrate into dust. All of this is happening simultaneously because I am now faced with the gravest decision of my life. And it is not the one we all assume it is. It's not to decide whether or not that my wife dies. No, it's worse. Somehow it's worse. I must decide whether or not to tell my wife during her final moments that I was cheating on her. She didn't know. My wife, my adoring wife, she had no idea I was cheating on her. It started 6 months ago. It was the company Christmas party. My wife could not come because our child was sick at the time. He had just turned 4 months old. Remy, our only child. It was bad enough that my wife said she should stay home with him rather than hire a sitter or call her sister to be the sitter, which neither of us ever wanted to do. Her sister was an odd duck, more of a last resort. If not for proximity, her sister never would have been a consideration to watch our only child. She was one of those people that was very spiritual. Too spiritual, we would joke behind her back. She was always giving us these odd books. Her literature was about giving back to Mother Earth. My wife would always be sweet about it, taking her gifts and promising to read them. I knew it was a bunch of hocus pocus that would just end up in our basement. Since I had this Christmas party and everyone at work wanted to meet my wife, I figured we would call her sister. But my wife, being the beautiful, generous, giving soul that she is, opted to stay home with Remy, our baby. I said I would too, but she insisted that I go to the work Christmas party. She said that I had been working so hard all year, I deserved one night out to unwind. After much hemming and hawing, she finally got me out the door. I told her I would be home by 11 at the latest. I felt like a teenager telling his mom he'd respect curfew. I rarely drink. Ever. My wife is the same way. A glass of wine at dinner sometimes, but that's it. We just never had that itch. It was part of the reason we fit so well. We had the same itches. Reading, museums, hiking, board games. We were dorks, and proud of it. So what was it about the Christmas party that made me drink so much? I suppose it was a combination of factors. It had been a long year at work. Everyone there was so excited, so loose, so loud. By the time I got there, the music was blaring and half the company was dancing. We were not the dancing crowd. At least I didn't think we were. But business was good, so people seemed to be letting it all hang out, as it were. The company was computer programming, developmental artificial intelligence. One of my co-workers, Shelley, whom I worked with most of that year, insisted that I have at least one drink. Her insistence reminded me of my wife. The first drink went down like air. I forget the name of the beer. Lagunitas, maybe? But it hit the spot. Much more than I thought it would. She asked if I wanted another. I had been there roughly 20 minutes, and I didn't want to be a party pooper. Shelley had clearly downed a couple of drinks already, but she always had such a great upbeat energy, so you couldn't tell that she was buzzed. We got another drink. As everyone else mingled, we seemed to stay off in our own little bubble near the bar, and then closer towards the bathroom, and then our own table. Shelley had a boyfriend. This was part of the reason we got along so well. We were both in committed relationships, mine much longer and serious than hers, but there was never even a consideration of being more than friends, and we rarely got a moment just to ourselves. As much as I love my wife and my child, I would be dishonest if I didn't admit that being able to live a little in the moment was exhilarating. I even danced. Well, we danced. She insisted. This was after our fourth drink. Maybe fifth? It got hazy after that. We woke up in my back seat. I had parked behind Stuckey's Deli because I knew it would be easier to leave if you parked at the Stuckey's lot, as opposed to inside the bar's parking lot. The parking lot at the bar was very tight, and when it got crowded, like it did tonight, people would block other people in. Some folks saw this as a fun quirk, having to go back into the bar and tell the bartender that someone had blocked them in. So the owner of that car would have to come out and let you out. I found it really unnecessary if you can avoid that, which I had planned on doing. Apparently Shelley had the same idea. So when we walked out together, we were the only two people in that back lot. I had called us a cab. While we were waiting, Shelley took out a joint. I couldn't even remember the last time I had gotten high. College, maybe, with my wife. That's where we met. By the time the cab came, we had only taken one puff each. I didn't want to leave. I knew I should have, but I didn't, because I could tell Shelley didn't want me to go either. So it said it must have been someone else who called the cab and pointed towards the bar. We thought this was hilarious. Part of our laughing was probably the pot. But we kept talking and talking and talking. Just us, in this empty little lot, tucked away from the world. If I hadn't been drunk and high, I wouldn't have done it. We wouldn't have done it. I knew that, without a shred of doubt. So when I kissed Shelley, and she didn't stop me, I wish that was the end of it, that it was a one-time thing. A horrible mistake that never got repeated, but I can't say that. We felt something for each other. I prayed to God that on Monday I would walk into work. We would agree that it was just a fun, brief fling, and we would swear to never tell a soul. I wish I could say that's what happened. But on our lunch break, we went back into my car, and I drove to another empty parking lot. This affair has been going on for 3 months. I was with Shelley when I got the call about my wife, as if my guilt wasn't bad enough. To get the news, while I was in Shelley's apartment, I puked. Right there on Shelley's carpet. My wife's sister had been calling the office trying to reach me, but I wasn't there. It's where they thought I would be, because that's what I told them. My wife had gone to the pharmacy to get medicine for Remy. Her sister had come over that night to hang out with her since I had to go spend another late night at the office, which by this point had become a fairly regular thing. My wife, of course, was understanding. She knew I loved my job, which paid fairly well, so she never questioned it. She knew me. Well, she thought she did. Never in 1,000 years would you think I'm the kind of guy who can cheat on his spouse. This part of me, the part that let me go to Shelley's apartment all of those times, even I was shocked. It's as if this malignant part of my organs had been slowly eating away at my insides, shredding the decency right out of me. And now I sit, by her deathbed, debating whether to tell her. She can't hear me. She's unconscious. It's the cowardly confession. Yet deep down I know that I have to tell her. I have no choice. She has a right to know, and I can't let her pass on to the next life without knowing I betrayed her. If I was honest, now, even in our darkest hour, perhaps it would absolve me of the sin. I never cared about religion until this very moment. I prayed towards every conception of heaven, hoping that my wife could hear my words. So I leaned in and I told her everything. I was spitting up as I told her. Snot was flowing out of my nostrils like lava. Drool hung down and all around my chin. I must have looked as grotesque as I felt. Good, I thought. I deserved to reflect a monster, because that's what I am. I told her how much I loved her. I said this over and over and over and over and over again. I couldn't stop. Once I stopped, I knew it would be over. Her life, our love, the family. I got up and started to walk for the door. As soon as I stood, I got dizzy. I had stepped into some sort of alternate reality. I reached for the door handle but fell. The doctor saw this and ran inside. He was trying to help me up, telling me to calm down. He was going to get me some water from nearby. When he came back, him and a young Indian nurse were helping me stand. My face was nearly liquid. Nearly liquid at this point when I told him I had decided to let my wife pass on so that we can use her organs to try and save the lives of others. I had to keep my eyes closed. Otherwise, I would have fallen right back down onto that cold hospital floor. I told him that's what my wife would want. There was a silence in the room, longer than I would have thought. I kept waiting for them to say something, but there was just more silence. I opened my eyes. They were gobsmacked, staring at something. Finally, the doctor spoke. "Your wife." Oh my God, I say, barely audible. I saw what they saw. My wife. Her eyes were open. It was a miracle. My wife was alive. Her organs seemed to be resuscitating. I could have asked how this was possible, but I didn't care. She was alive. I grabbed her hands and began kissing her cheeks. The doctor and nurse said I had to stay outside. A full roster of healthcare workers came into the room. They swarmed her like locusts. I stood behind the glass, staring. My wife, miracle that she is, just stared right back at me. Her eyes never wavered. All she could do was look at me. She had to stay overnight. This is what they told me as we sat huddled into a tiny break room. I was sitting across from multiple doctors. This felt unusual. They seemed to be marveling at my wife's recovery. I was now crying, but for the opposite reasons. Pure joy, relief, gratitude. My luck at meeting her in college had only been outdone by my luck in her surviving. They laid out how remarkable it was for her to make this recovery at such a speed. They cautioned me, beat by beat. They specified warning signs, things for me to watch out for. As she comes back to full strength, I hugged them. I was hugging everyone. My wife was alive, and her family would be stronger than ever before. Our family would be stronger than ever before. How long would I have to wait until we went home together? Just saying the word home made me cry. They wanted to monitor her overnight, but if she holds steady, I could get her back home within a couple of days. I screamed with bliss. My God, I thought. Perhaps religion was real. How else to explain this? Yet the one question that did remain hovered above me. Had she heard my confession? Her vitals were so low at that point it seemed impossible for her to be aware of anything that was happening, let alone retain the information. I had to assume that she did not hear me. Otherwise, she would have made some sort of acknowledgement. Who cares, I thought. My wife is alive, and she's coming home. Yes, the doctor told me. There's no physical reason we can see that would inhibit her from speaking. She's just clearly still in shock. That's why she hasn't spoken yet. It's nothing to worry about. By all accounts, Mr. Warren, your wife is truly a miracle. The person who entered our hospital after the crash, I can safely say that you're one of the luckiest people I've ever met. I cried. Again. I had cried more that week than in the previous 30 years combined. Why not? Why hold it in? I wanted the whole world to know how lucky I was, how happy I was. I couldn't wait to get my wife home so she could hold our baby. Remy needed his mom. He would light up whenever he saw her. I would get maybe a half a smirk if I was lucky. But when Remy saw Mommy, he would beam right up. Mothers have a different connection to their children. For as much crap as I talked about my sister-in-law behind her back, I'd have to agree with her on that. Mothers definitely had a tighter bond with their kids. No argument from me. My wife had gone through something horrific. It didn't seem odd at all that she was not talking when I picked her up from the hospital, or even that she wasn't making eye contact. The docs all assured me that her vitals were good. She was healthy as a whistle. No, clean as a whistle? I forgot how they phrased it. I couldn't stop looking at my wife. There were bruises, sure, and she was paler than normal, but otherwise it was her, in the flesh, coming home, to her family. I could hear Remy crying. As soon as we hit the front lawn, I could hear him crying. I'd be crying too if I had to hang out with my sister-in-law alone. And when you know it, as soon as my wife walked into our house, he stopped crying. I mean, it was instantaneous. He was staring at her. You should have seen his eyes, how wide they got. He was hypnotized by her mother. I asked her if she wanted to hold him. I told her how much she had missed him. She stood there for a moment, staring at him, but then she just sort of turned away, walked into our bedroom, and crawled into bed. I told my sister-in-law she didn't have to stay. After about 10 minutes of mental arm wrestling, I finally got her to take a hike. Remy was crying again. I would casually walk by my bedroom every 10 or 15 minutes just to check in. She never moved. Not that day, not that night. She never moved. I couldn't blame her. I thought about how good our bed would have felt if I was her, having spent a week in that awful hospital bed after getting into a car crash that would have killed anyone else who was not my wife. My superhuman of a wife. I wanted to renew our vows. I would wait to bring it up in a couple of days. But it felt right. Celebrate how lucky we were to know each other, to love each other. It felt right to put that love back into the world. The next day was pretty much the same. My wife stayed in bed. I hung out with Remy. I had called out of work for that week. Everyone at my job heard what happened. They told me to take as much time as I needed. I thanked them for that and all of their support. You should have seen my living room. The amount of cards and flowers and food. So much love. It was beautiful. I called my doctor to tell him that she had stayed in bed all day. He said not to worry. which was easy for me to do, seeing how grateful I was. By the third day, when she still wasn't moving, I started to get a little nervous. It'd be one thing if she was asleep, catching up on rest, getting her strength back. That made sense. What got me kind of spooked, though, was she was not asleep. No, in fact, her eyes, they were always open. The first time it happened was around 3 a.m. I woke up and reached over, only to feel an empty bed. I sprang right up. My wife had moved. It had been almost 4 days of no movement, and now she had gone somewhere. I leapt out of bed and ran into the hallway. First, I sprinted down the stairs to see if the door was open. It wasn't. Then I did a full circle around the first floor to see if she was down there. She wasn't. Then I ran back up the stairs to see if she was in the bathroom. She wasn't. Nope. It turns out she was in the first place I should have looked, Remy's bedroom. He was standing upright. I'd never seen him do that before. I softly walked up behind her and put my arms onto her shoulders. The one thing I noticed right off the bat was how cold her skin was. She felt like she had just come from the outside. The next thing that threw me off was that her eyes were closed. Apparently, she had been sleepwalking. That was another first. Remy never took his eyes off his mom. I gently guided her back towards the bedroom and tucked her in. She was whispering, something in her sleep. I couldn't make out what it was. It must have been quite the dream, because whatever she was whispering, rapid gibberish. I lay right behind her, wrapping my arm around her waist. I nuzzled my nose against her neck and I kissed it. Her body was so cold. Within 5 minutes, I had to take my arm off her because it was making my chest tremble. I got another big blanket from the closet and wrapped her in it. I took her temperature, 98.6. She seemed fine. The vitals, as usual, were good. That was the first time she would walk in her sleep. The next time, well, that was alarming. We had a big basement, which was good since we liked to collect things. There was this running joke between us that we would retire and become hoarders. Our basement was packed with things we had collected over the years. It ran the gamut. I described it as a visual journal of our travels, a room filled with memories. For our anniversary a couple years back, I had organized the basement into a painter's studio. My wife loved to draw, so I thought, let me give her a big canvas to work off. Considering the room, it wasn't half bad. She loved it, and that's what mattered. It was around the same time the next night when I woke up and she was gone. This time I went straight for Remy's room. She wasn't there, but he was standing upright again, staring right where his mother had been the night before. He didn't even notice me. I went darting all throughout the house until I saw the basement door was cracked open, but the light was not on. I called out her name. No response. When I walked down there and turned on the light, she was in the middle of the room, standing on a chair. I walked around to see her face. Her eyes had rolled into the back of her head. All I saw was white. She was speaking in that quick, rapid-fire gibberish again. Her neck snapped to the right, then crack! It was so loud and violent that it actually sent me backwards onto the floor. Then her neck snapped to the left, crack! Her toes started to curl up as her legs stretched out. As I finally stood up and reached out for her, her eyes turned to me. The basement lights went out. I was covered in glass from the bulbs. I thought my eardrums had been punctured. There was this disorienting ringing noise buzzing in my head. I was trying to shake it out as if I had swimmer's ear. I tiptoed around the glass and then walked up the stairs. The first floor was completely empty and quiet. So I walked up to the second floor, to my bedroom, and there she was. I don't know how she got there so quick. I didn't even hear her leave the basement. But my wife was in our bed, sleeping, with her eyes wide open. Tomorrow would be an attempt at normal. It had been a week. My wife's condition had not improved. Yet her vitals, by all measures, seemed to be positive. I had been in constant contact with my doctor and her doctor. I would throw questions at them as they came to me. I thought they might become annoyed by my persistence, yet they remained intrigued. My wife's recovery had become almost mythic to the local healthcare community. They had more questions than I did. In fact, by the 5th day, they would call me, ask me how she was doing. Have you ever heard of that? Doctors calling you at home to check on your wife? I could have taken more time off from work if I needed to, but I thought it would be best for all if I went back to work for one day, just to dip my toe into the water. Maybe that would help my wife somehow, if she could go at her own pace without me breathing down her neck all the time. Feeding her applesauce and protein shakes, as if she was some sort of quadriplegic, which she was anything but. There was one time in bed when I nuzzled up next to her and squeezed her arm. It was strong, stronger than it had been before the accident. It was inspiring. I had started running again. When my sister-in-law would pop up by uninvited to check on her sister, I would use it as an opportunity to go for a quick run. I'd come back and she'd be lying in my bed, whispering into my wife's ear. Another reason I wanted to go back to work was to end it with Shelley. She had been filled in on everything that happened. Everyone knew all the details about my wife's story. But me and Shelley had never had a proper goodbye. Beyond one phone call I made from a payphone, we had not spoken at all since the accident. This was a chance to end it on good terms. I owed her that much. This happened to all of us, including her. During lunch, I asked if she would like to get a coffee. So we did and spoke in the parking lot, which seemed oddly fitting. She was very understanding and told me how happy she was that my wife was okay. I told her I hoped this would not interfere with our work. She emphatically said it would not. I believed her, and she believed me when I told her that I deeply regret if she felt used in any way. She said she had not felt used. She had felt loved and appreciated, even for just a short while. And that was that. We went back to being just co-workers. My day back was on a Friday, which meant I had the whole weekend to be with my family and try to help my wife in any way that I could. I made her favorite meal, grilled salmon with roasted peppers and asparagus. I had very few skills in the kitchen, but I had mastered this one. It's always a good idea to learn how to cook your lady's favorite dish. I got a bottle of wine. I let my sister-in-law take Remy to her house for the night. Maybe this would unlock something. If it was just us, well, I was willing to try whatever it took to get her back to being the woman I married. As soon as the cork popped, I saw her. My wife. She was standing there in that red dress, the red dress she had worn on our honeymoon. She had stopped wearing it because it didn't fit anymore. But it fit right now. It fit better than any dress I had ever seen on anyone before. Radiant was an understatement. She was angelic. Her color had come back. Her smile had come back. It was her. She was back. "Darling," she said. She had never called me darling before. She can call me Adolf if she looks at me like that. "Sweetheart," I yelled as I ran over to take her hands into my own. "You look amazing." "I feel amazing," she told me. "Now kiss me before I wake up." I almost cried, but I didn't. I held back the tears as I leaned in and kissed her. Every kiss we had ever shared were locking lips for this one moment. This one moment of perfect unity. I held her tightly, and when it finally ended, I took a step back. I felt something on my tongue. It had an odd texture, like chalk. I saw that her lips were black. The texture seemed to be sliding down my neck. I could feel it swimming around my throat. I was trying to gauge what it was. I had to clutch the kitchen counter just to keep my balance. I tried washing it out with water. As I was standing by the sink, I could feel her behind me. She leaned into my ear and asked, "Did I taste like Shelley?" And then everything went black. I woke up in the basement. I cannot feel the ground. My toes seem to be dangling in the air. I can't move my body, only my neck, slightly. Vision is going in and out. It's crowded. Women. All women. They're all standing below me. Somewhere in the crowd I can see my wife. They're all holding hands. Gibberish. They're talking in gibberish. That same gibberish that my wife would say in her sleep. The crowd parts, and I can see my sister-in-law walking closer to me. She's holding something. It's big, metallic, I think. I can feel a sharp pain in my gut. I want to look down. I want to put pressure on the wound. Neither is possible. I have now lost control of my facial movements. I can feel something being poured on my head. It's hot. Everything is fading to black. I see my child, Remy, being held up towards the ceiling. I can hear them talking. They must think I can't hear them, but I can. My wife is talking to a man. I can hear little beeps to my right. Beacons of light with each beep. She's asking him if I will survive. He says there's a very slim chance. He tells her it's a miracle I'm still alive, considering what happened. To live through a fall of that height. It would take another miracle, he tells her. Everything is still black, but my vision is slowly coming back. He's asking her if I should be kept alive or not. He briefly explains the pamphlet, going through each organ and how long they'll be viable after I passed away. He asks if she would like to be alone with me for a moment. She says she would. I can hear a door close. I can hear a chair being pulled closer to me. I can see my wife sitting next to me. I wait for her to speak. I wait for her to guide me back into the light. I hear nothing. Silence. And then I finally hear her laughing.
When the sun dips low and shadows creep, I feel the chill of secret sea. The old jukebox plays a soulful tune while whispers dance beneath the moon. The stories shared, the laughter flows in this quiet place where heart knows. When the night falls and the stars align, I'll be waiting, just take your time. Let the wind carry on. Find me there, never alone. Beneath the glow of the neon sign, we share our dreams, you sip your wine. Those timeless tales that bind us tight, the shadows play and hearts take flight. The dark clouds rise, but we stand strong in this juke joint where we belong. When the night falls and the stars align, I'll be waiting, just take your time. Let the wind carry on. Find me there, never alone. So here we are, just you and I, with memories woven like the sky. A breeze will guide us through it all. Together we rise, together we fall. When the night falls and the stars align, I'll be waiting, just take your time. Let the